He fixed an old woman's broken car for free while everyone watched. Moments later, his boss fired him on the spot. But when she slowly turned and revealed who she really was, his hands trembled and everyone fell silent. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm gonna tell you everything. The air in the shop was thick and hot, like soup. Bobby wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, leaving a smudge of grease above his eyebrow. He was tightening the bolts on a tire when he heard a worried voice. "Excuse me, young man?" Bobby turned. An old woman stood just inside the big garage door. She had soft white hair and kind eyes, but they were full of worry. Behind her was an old car, its paint faded by the sun. "Yes, ma'am?" Bobby said, walking over. "My car is making a terrible sound," the woman said. "A clunking right under me. I don't know what to do." "Let's have a listen," Bobby said. He led her car into a spot. The woman's name was Mrs. Whitaker. Bobby asked her to start the engine. He heard the clunk right away. It was a loud, scary sound. Mrs. Whitaker's hands were tight on the steering wheel. Bobby got his flashlight. He lay on the little rollerboard and slid under the car. The metal was hot. He looked and looked. Then he saw it. A thick hose was hanging loose, bouncing and hitting the frame every time the engine moved. He slid back out. "I found it, Mrs. Whitaker. It's just a loose hose. I can fix it right now. It won't take but 5 minutes." Her face relaxed a little, but then the worry came back. How much will that cost?" Bobby looked at her. He saw the way her coat was old but clean. He saw the simple wedding ring on her finger. He felt that worried feeling she had, a feeling he knew too well. It was the feeling of counting dollars and knowing there were not enough. "No charge," Bobby said, the words out of his mouth before he could think. "What?" she asked. "It's just a hose clamp. We have a box of them. It's an easy fix. No charge." He gave her a small smile. He found a new clamp and slid back under the car. In less than 5 minutes, the hose was secure. He had to start the engine again. The terrible clunking sound was gone. The engine purred softly. Mrs. Whitaker got out of her car. Her eyes were shiny. "Thank you, young man. You are a very kind boy. What is your name?" "Bobby, ma'am." "Thank you, Bobby." She patted his shoulder and walked to her car door. Bobby felt a warm happiness in his chest. He picked up his tools, then he felt a shadow fall over him. "What was that?" Bobby turned. Mr. Jenkins stood there, his arms crossed. His face was hard. His gray beard looked sharp. "Mrs. Whitaker's car had a loose hose, sir. I fixed it," Bobby said. "I heard what you said. I asked what was that?" Mr. Jenkins's voice was low and cold. "She was worried about the cost, sir. It was just a clamp from the box." "It was my clamp, from my box, in my shop." Mr. Jenkins took a step closer. "My rule is simple. We charge for everything, everything. Time, parts, air. You know the rule." "I know, sir, but she was scared, and it was so easy to fix and—" "No!" Mr. Jenkins's shout echoed in the shop. The other mechanic, Dan, looked over from another car and then quickly looked away. "There is no but. You do not give away my things. You do not make the rules." Bobby's heart began to pound. The warm feeling was gone, replaced by a cold sinking. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jenkins. It won't happen again." "You are right, Mr." Jenkins said, his voice loud for everyone to hear. "It won't happen again because you are fired. Get out of my shop. Take off that apron. It belongs to me." The words hit Bobby like a physical blow. He looked down at the big green apron. It was his favorite thing. It made him feel useful. It made him feel like he belonged here. His hands shook as he untied the strings behind his back. He slipped the apron over his head. He held the worn green fabric in his hands for a second. It felt heavy now, like it was made of mud. He carefully folded it and placed it on a clean workbench. He did not look at Mr. Jenkins. He did not look at Dan. He walked past Mrs. Whitaker's old car, which was now quiet and fixed. He walked out of the big garage door into the blinding white light of the hot afternoon. He started the long walk home. His mom was at work. He would have to tell her he got fired. He saw her face in his mind. She would smile, but her eyes would be tired. He just wanted the car to be quiet for the nice lady. Now everything was broken. The sun was so bright it made the sidewalk look white. Bobby walked slowly, his shoes making soft scuffs on the concrete. He could still hear Mr. Jenkins's yelling in his head. He turned the corner onto Main Street, away from the shop. Bobby, wait, please. He stopped. He knew that voice. He turned around. Mrs. Whitaker was hurrying down the sidewalk toward him. Her old car was parked back in front of the auto shop. She waved a hand. Come back with me. Bobby shook his head. I can't, Mrs. Whitaker. I got fired. I'm not allowed. Yes, you are, she said. Her voice was gentle but firm. She reached him and put a soft hand on his arm. Come back with me right now. It is very important. Bobby was confused. He did not want to go back. He did not want to see Mr. Jenkins's angry face again, but Mrs. Whitaker's eyes were serious. He nodded and followed her. They walked back to the shop together. The big garage door was still open. Inside, it was quiet. Mr. Jenkins was writing something on a clipboard. He looked up when he saw them. You again? Mr. Jenkins said to Bobby. I told you to get out. And you? He said to Mrs. Whitaker. Your car is fixed. Go home. Mrs. Whitaker did not move. She walked into the center of the shop. She stood very straight. The quiet in the room felt heavy. Samuel Jenkins, she said. Her gentle voice was gone. Now it was clear and strong, like a bell. Mr. Jenkins put his clipboard down. What do you want? You told this boy he was fired for an act of kindness, she said. I fired him for giving away my property, my shop, my rules. Your shop, Mrs. Whitaker repeated slowly. She looked around at the brick walls, the old tool chests, the faded sign by the door. You think this is your shop? I know it is, Mr. Jenkins said, his face getting red. My name, the old woman said, is Eleanor Whitaker. Mr. Jenkins's eyes narrowed. He smoothed his gray beard with one hand. So? I built this auto shop, Eleanor Whitaker said. I built it with these hands 50 years ago. My husband, Walter, and I laid these bricks. We opened these doors for the first time in the spring of 1965. Bobby's mouth fell open. He looked from the old woman to Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins let out a short, hard laugh. That was a long time ago, lady. You sold it. I bought it. It's mine now. I sold it to you, yes, Eleanor said. She took a small step closer to him. But we had an agreement, a condition. Do you remember? Mr. Jenkins looked away. I remember a price and a handshake. It was more than that. I told you this place was not just bricks and oil. It had a heart. Its job was to help people in this town. I sold it to you with one rule. You must run it with that same good heart. You must run it with kindness. That was our deal. That's not in any contract, mister, Jenkins snapped. That's just something old people say. It is in a contract, Eleanor said softly. You have forgotten, but I have not. She turned away from Mr. Jenkins. She looked at Bobby. Her blue eyes were bright and sure. You showed that heart today, Bobby. You saw a person in need and you helped, with no thought for yourself. That is the heart this place needs. She faced Mr. Jenkins again. You broke our condition today. You chose rules over kindness. You chose anger over help. So as of this moment, you are no longer the keeper of this shop. Mr. Jenkins stared at her, his face full of disbelief. You're crazy. You can't just take it back. Eleanor ignored him. She put a hand on Bobby's shoulder. Bobby, you are not fired. Not by me. I am hiring you. You will work for me. You will help me run this shop the right way. Bobby could not speak. His mind was spinning. The shop belonged to Mrs. Whitaker? He was hired again? This is my shop, Eleanor Whitaker said, her voice filling the quiet space. And you, Bobby, are my first new employee. Welcome home. For a long moment, there was only silence in the shop. Mr. Jenkins stared at Eleanor Whitaker. His face moved from shock to a deep, red anger. You can't do this, he finally said, his voice a low growl. I just did, Eleanor said. Her hand was still on Bobby's shoulder. Mr. Jenkins let out a harsh laugh. He walked over to a messy desk in the corner. He yanked open a drawer and pulled out a thin blue folder. He waved it in the air. You see this? These are my papers. The deed, the bill of sale, legal papers from a real lawyer. They say I own this building. They say I own this business. Your condition isn't written here. It doesn't exist. He slammed the folder down on the desk. So you can take your stories and your good heart and get out. Both of you. Now. Bobby felt the hope drain out of him. Mr. Jenkins had official papers. They looked real. Eleanor's story was just a story.
He looked up at the old woman. Eleanor's face was calm. She looked at Mr. Jenkins like he was a noisy dog barking at a fence. "Those papers are only part of the story, Samuel. I have the rest of it." She turned to Bobby. "Come with me, Bobby." "Where are we going?" Bobby asked. "To my house, to get the truth." They walked out of the shop. Mr. Jenkins did not try to stop them. He just watched them go, a mean smile on his face. Eleanor's old car was still parked outside. They got in. It was clean inside and smelled like mint. She drove slowly through the streets of small town. They did not talk. Bobby watched the houses go by. He felt confused and tired. They stopped in front of a small white house on Maple Street. The house had a big porch with a swing. The grass was very green. "This is my home," Eleanor said. "Walter and I moved here the year after we opened the shop." She led him inside. The house was quiet and full of old furniture and pictures in frames. Sunlight came through the windows in long beams, showing little specks of dust in the air. "We need to go upstairs," she said. Bobby followed her up a narrow set of stairs. At the top was a small door. Eleanor opened it. A folded wooden ladder dropped down. It led to a dark space above. "The attic," she said. "I have not been up here in many years." She climbed up first. Bobby followed. The attic was hot and dusty. There were old trunks, boxes, and pieces of furniture covered with white sheets. One small window at the end let in a little light. Eleanor walked carefully to a large old trunk made of dark wood. She brushed dust off the top. "This was my father's," she said. She lifted the heavy lid. Inside, Bobby could see folded blankets and some old books. Eleanor moved these things aside with care. From the very bottom, she pulled out a big, heavy book. It had a dark brown leather cover worn soft at the edges. "This," she said, holding it gently, "is the first ledger for Whitaker's Auto. Every job, every part, every penny from the very first day is in here." She brought the book over to the circle of light under the window. She sat on an old wooden chair. Bobby knelt on the floor beside her. She opened the book. The pages were yellow. The writing was in neat, looping handwriting with black ink. Bobby saw dates and numbers and descriptions of car repairs from 50 years ago. Eleanor turned the pages slowly. "We wrote everything down. It was our history." She turned to the very last page with writing on it. The date at the top was from many years ago. "This is the day I sold the shop to Samuel Jenkins." Bobby looked. He saw numbers showing the sale price. At the bottom of the page, there were two signatures. One said, Eleanor R. Whitaker. The other said, Samuel P. Jenkins. Below the signatures, the page was empty. But on the next page, something was written. It was the same black ink, the same looping handwriting. "Read it," Eleanor whispered. Bobby leaned closer. He read the words out loud, slowly. "The sale of this shop is made with one condition. The spirit of help and kindness must remain its true engine. If this spirit is broken by the new owner, the right of ownership will return to me, Eleanor Whitaker, or my chosen heir. This is our true contract. Signed, Eleanor and Walter Whitaker." Under the words were two signatures again. Eleanor's and a name Bobby did not know. Walter J. Whitaker. Bobby looked up at Eleanor. "What does this mean?" "It means that my promise was not just spoken, Bobby. It was written. Walter and I wrote it down right here, on the day we sold the shop. That note is our proof. Samuel Jenkins only gets to keep the shop if he runs it with kindness. He broke that rule today, so the shop must come back to me." Bobby stared at the handwritten note. It was right there, in the old book. It felt more real than Mr. Jenkins' blue folder. A new feeling, warm and bright, started in his chest. It was hope. "He has to listen now," Bobby said. "This is your writing." He signed the page before it. "He has to see this." Eleanor nodded. She carefully closed the heavy ledger. She held it to her chest. "Yes, he does. Let's go show him." The heavy ledger sat on Bobby's lap during the short drive back to the shop. He held it with both hands, feeling the soft, worn leather. It felt like holding history. Eleanor drove carefully, her eyes on the road. "He will have to listen now," Bobby said again, more to himself than to her. "He will see the proof," Eleanor agreed, but her voice was quiet, thoughtful. They turned onto the street where the auto shop stood. Bobby leaned forward, eager to see Mr. Jenkins's face when he saw the book. But as they got closer, he noticed something was wrong. The big garage door was closed.
It was never closed in the middle of the day. Eleanor pulled her car into the spot right in front of the main pedestrian door. Bobby got out, clutching the ledger. He went to pull the door handle. It didn't move. He looked closer. Around the metal edge of the door was a shiny new lock. It was bright brass, different from the old scratched one that used to be there. "Mrs. Whitaker," Bobby said, "the door is locked." Eleanor came to his side. She tried the handle herself. It was firmly locked. She looked at the big garage door. "The service door on the side. Try that one." They walked quickly around the corner of the brick building. The small metal door there was used for taking out the trash. Bobby reached for its handle. It too was held shut by a new, heavy-looking lock. "He changed the locks," Bobby said, the realization sinking in like a cold stone. Just then, a shadow moved inside the shop, behind the window in the main door. A blind was pulled aside. They saw Mr. Jenkins's face looking out at them. A moment later, they heard a click from the new lock. The door opened just a crack. Mr. Jenkins stood in the doorway. He did not open it all the way. He looked at Eleanor, then at the big book in Bobby's arms. His mouth twisted into a smile, but it wasn't a happy one. "Back so soon?" he said. "We have something to show you, Samuel," Eleanor said. Her voice was steady. "The original ledger from the sale. Our agreement is written inside." "Is that so?" Mr. Jenkins said. He pushed the door open a little wider and leaned against the frame. He crossed his arms. "Let me see it." Bobby stepped forward and carefully opened the book to the last written page. He held it up so Mr. Jenkins could see the signatures and the handwritten note below them. Mr. Jenkins looked at it. He didn't even lean in for a closer look. His eyes just scanned the page for a few seconds. Then he started to laugh. It was a short, dry sound. "A note in a book," he said, shaking his head. "You drove all the way home for a note in an old book?" "It is our agreement," Eleanor said firmly. "You signed the page. The condition is right there." A condition written asterisk after asterisk the signatures, on a different page? Mr. Jenkins snorted. "That's not a contract. That's a diary entry. That's a grocery list. It's nothing." "It is everything," Bobby burst out, unable to stay quiet. "It says you have to be kind." Mr. Jenkins looked at Bobby, his smile gone. "Listen, kid. The world doesn't work on notes in books. It works on real papers, legal papers, filed at the courthouse. My papers are filed. Your little story?" He waved a hand at the ledger. "It's a fairy tale. It means nothing. Zero." He stepped back into the doorway. "Now you two need to leave my property. For good. Don't come back. If you do, I will call the sheriff. He deals with trespassers." He started to close the door. "Samuel, this is not over," Eleanor said, but her voice sounded tired. "Yeah," Mr. Jenkins said from behind the closing door. "It is." The door clicked shut. They heard the sound of the new lock turning from the inside. Bobby stared at the blank door. The weight of the ledger in his hands suddenly felt useless. It was just a heavy old book. Mr. Jenkins was right. It wasn't a legal paper. It was just words. The hope that had warmed him in the attic was gone, replaced by a hollow ache. They had the truth, but it was locked away in a book no one else cared about. They stood on the hot sidewalk in front of the silent, locked shop, and they had no idea what to do next. They stood on the hot sidewalk for a long time. The locked door of the shop was like a wall. Bobby looked down at the old ledger in his hands. The truth was in here, but it was trapped, just like they were. Eleanor let out a slow breath. "I am sorry, Bobby. I thought he would remember. I thought he would see." Bobby didn't answer. He was thinking hard. Mr. Jenkins's words echoed in his head. Asterisk real papers, legal papers, filed at the courthouse. Who knew about papers like that? A person who worked with rules all day. Then, like a light switching on, he remembered. "You talked about a friend," Bobby said, looking up at Eleanor. "A long time ago. A friend who knows about rules and papers. A lawyer." Eleanor's blue eyes focused. "Arthur," she whispered. "Yes, Arthur. Is he still a lawyer? Does he still live in Cleveland?" "The last I heard, yes. But that was many years ago, Bobby. He would be very old now, like me. But if he's a lawyer, he would know." Bobby's words came out in a rush. "He would know if the note in the book means something. He would know what to do." Eleanor looked at the locked shop door, then at Bobby's hopeful face. She nodded slowly. "You are right. Arthur would know. It is a long drive, many hours. We have to try, Bobby said. Please. A small smile touched Eleanor's lips. You have a good heart and a smart head. Let's go find Arthur. They got back into her car. This time, Bobby held the ledger tightly on his lap as they drove out of small town. They followed the big highway north. The flat fields of Ohio slowly changed as they got closer to the city. Walter and Arthur were friends since they were boys, Eleanor said as she drove. Arthur always had a book of rules in his hand. He helped us write the very first papers for the shop. He was a good man. After more than 2 hours, the buildings got taller, the traffic got thicker. Bobby had never been to Cleveland before. He watched the big buildings and bridges pass by the window. Eleanor drove carefully, turning down smaller streets. She looked for street signs, her eyes searching. It should be near here. His office was always on the ground floor. He said people should not have to climb stairs to find justice. Then she pointed. There, that's the building. It was an old brick building squeezed between 2 taller ones. The sign on the window was faded, but Bobby could read the words, Arthur Clark, attorney at law. They parked the car. Bobby carried the ledger as they walked to the door. The door was glass with a little bell above it. Eleanor pushed it open. The bell gave a soft asterisk ding asterisk. The office was one small room. It was full of books, books on shelves, books in stacks on the floor, books on a big wooden desk. Behind the desk sat a very old man. He had fluffy white hair and wore small round glasses. He was reading a thick book. He looked up when the bell rang. He blinked, peering at them. Then his eyes landed on Eleanor. They opened wide. Eleanor Whitaker? His voice was thin and raspy, but strong. By all that's good, is that you? Hello, Arthur, Eleanor said, smiling. Arthur Clark took off his glasses and stood up, moving slowly. He came around the desk and took both of Eleanor's hands in his. It must be 20 years. More. You haven't changed a bit. I have changed quite a bit, you old liar, Eleanor laughed. Arthur, this is my friend Bobby. We have a very big problem, and we need your help. Arthur looked at Bobby and nodded kindly. Then he saw the ledger in Bobby's arms. His eyes sharpened. Is that what I think it is? Eleanor nodded. The first ledger. From the shop. Oh my, Arthur said. He waved them toward 2 chairs in front of his desk. Sit. Tell me everything. They sat down. Eleanor told the story. She told him about selling the shop to Samuel Jenkins. She told him about the condition of kindness. She told him about Bobby fixing her car for free, and Mr. Jenkins firing him and changing the locks. Bobby opened the ledger to the last page and placed it on Arthur's desk. He pointed to the handwritten note. Arthur put his glasses back on. He leaned over the book. He did not speak for a full minute. He read the note once, then twice. He looked at the signatures. His old hands gently touched the page. When he looked up, his eyes were bright and excited. Eleanor, you brilliant woman. You and Walter did it. You really did it. Did what? Bobby asked. You made a codicil, Arthur said, tapping the page. A what? Bobby asked. A codicil, Arthur repeated. It is a special legal word. It means an addition to a will or to a contract. It is a rule that changes or adds to the first rule. He pointed to the signatures on the sales page. This is the main contract. And this, his finger moved to the handwritten note, is a codicil. It is a real, binding legal addition. It was signed by both parties on the same day. It is absolutely valid. Bobby felt his heart leap. So, it is a real paper, a legal paper. It is part of the original contract, Arthur said, his voice firm. Samuel Jenkins agreed to run the shop with kindness. He did not. Therefore, the shop reverts to you, Eleanor. This paper is your proof. He closed the ledger with care. Mr. Jenkins has the deed, but you have the soul of the contract, and in a court of law, the soul matters very much. He looked at both of them. I will help you. We will get your shop back. 1 week later, Bobby stood on the steps of the small-town courthouse. He wore his only button-up shirt, which was a little tight in the shoulders. Eleanor stood beside him in a simple blue dress. Arthur was on her other side, carrying a neat leather folder with all their papers inside. Remember, Arthur said softly, his voice calm. We have the truth on our side. Just tell the judge exactly what happened. Bobby nodded, but his stomach felt full of butterflies. The courthouse was a big, serious building made of gray stone. They walked inside and into a quiet hallway. A man in a uniform pointed them to a wooden door. The courtroom was smaller than Bobby expected. There were rows of benches like in a church. At the front was a high desk for the judge. Mr. Jenkins was already there, sitting at a table on one side. He had a different lawyer with him, a younger man in a very sharp suit. Mr. Jenkins saw them come in and frowned. They sat at the other table. A few minutes later, a door at the front opened. A woman in a black robe walked in. Everyone stood up. "You may be seated," the judge said. She had silver hair and kind but tired eyes. She looked at some papers. "This is the case of Whitaker versus Jenkins. I am Judge Harris. We are here to decide the matter of ownership of the property known as Whitaker's Auto. Mrs. Whitaker, you may begin." Arthur stood up. "Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Arthur Clark, representing Mrs. Eleanor Whitaker. This is about a promise. 50 years ago, Mrs. Whitaker built a business with her husband. It was built on helping people. When she sold it to Mr. Samuel Jenkins, she sold it with one condition. That condition was that the business must continue to be run with kindness. This was not a secret. It was written down." Arthur opened his folder. He took out a photocopy of the ledger page. He gave one copy to the judge and one to Mr. Jenkins's lawyer. "This is from the original shop ledger. You can see the signatures from the sale. On the following page, you see the handwritten condition, signed by both Eleanor and Walter Whitaker. In the law, this is called a codicil. It is a binding part of the sales contract." The judge looked at the paper carefully. "Mr. Jenkins's counsel, your response?" The younger lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, this is a note in a personal book. It is not a formal legal document. It was not filed with the county. My client has the official deed and the bill of sale. They grant him clear ownership. This other note it's a sentimental wish. It is not law." Judge Harris looked at Mr. Jenkins. "Mr. Jenkins, did you know about this condition when you bought the business?" Mr. Jenkins smoothed his beard. He stood up. "She mentioned being nice, sure, who doesn't? But it wasn't in the official papers I signed. I run a business. I have to charge for work. The boy gave away my property. I fired him for that. That's my right as the owner." The judge nodded slowly. She looked at Eleanor. "Mrs. Whitaker, what is your view of the event that started this? The repair for free?" Eleanor stood. Her voice was clear and quiet in the silent room. "Bobby saw I was worried. He fixed a simple problem. He asked for nothing. That asterisk is asterisk the kindness the condition speaks of. Mr. Jenkins saw that kindness as a theft. He valued the clamp more than the person. That is the breaking of the condition." "And the boy? Robert, is it?" the judge said, looking at Bobby. Bobby's mouth went dry. He stood up, his knees feeling weak. "Yes, ma'am." "Why did you not charge her?" Bobby swallowed. "Because she was scared. And it was easy. It took 5 minutes. It just felt like the right thing to do." The judge looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked down at all the papers on her desk. The room was so quiet, Bobby could hear the clock on the wall ticking. "The law is not just about papers," Judge Harris finally said. "It is also about intent, about promises made between people." She looked at Mr. Jenkins. "You admit Mrs. Whitaker spoke to you about the spirit of the business. The handwritten codicil, signed and dated the same day as the sale, confirms that intent. It is a valid part of your purchase agreement." Mr. Jenkins's face began to turn red. "You have failed to uphold the condition of that agreement," the judge continued. "Therefore, the terms of the codicil are activated. Ownership of the business known as Whitaker's Auto reverts to Eleanor Whitaker." She picked up a small gavel and tapped it once. "So ordered." Bobby felt a jolt go through him. He looked at Eleanor. Her eyes were closed and she had a small, peaceful smile on her face. Arthur put a hand on her shoulder. Mr. Jenkins' lawyer was whispering to him quickly, but Mr. Jenkins wasn't listening. He stared at the judge, then at Eleanor, his face a mask of pure fury. Without a word, he turned and stormed out of the courtroom. "We did it," Bobby whispered, the words barely a breath. Eleanor opened her eyes and looked at him. She reached over and took his hand. Her hand was warm and steady. "We did," she said. "Thank you, Bobby." Arthur began gathering his papers. "The shop is yours, Eleanor. Truly yours again. Let's go home." The shop felt different. It was the same bricks, the same concrete floor, but the air was lighter. Bobby stood on a step stool, carefully painting the wall behind the workbench a bright, sunny yellow. Eleanor was near the front door, brushing a soft blue onto the door frame. "The blue and yellow remind me of the sky and sun on a good day," Eleanor said, stepping back to look at her work. "It's happy," Bobby agreed. He dipped his brush again. For a week, they had been cleaning and fixing. They had taken down Mr. Jenkins' old strict signs. They had organized the tools. News of the court case had spread all over small town, and more people had started coming in, not just for repairs, but to say hello and offer help. An older man named Dan, who used to work for Mr. Jenkins, had even stopped by. "Need a real mechanic around here?" he had asked with a shy smile. Eleanor had hired him on the spot. Bobby was wiping paint from his hands when he heard a deep, rumbling sound outside. It wasn't a car, it was bigger. He and Eleanor exchanged a look and walked out the open garage door. A huge truck, as big as a house, was idling in the street. It was glossy white with bold red letters on the side that said Midwest Mega Motors. It blocked the whole street. The rumbling noise was its engine. The passenger door opened. A man in a very clean gray suit stepped down. He had slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He held a thin black folder. "Good afternoon," the man said. His voice was too loud, like he was used to talking over machinery. "I'm looking for the owner of this property." "I am the owner," Eleanor said, wiping her hands on a rag. The man's smile stayed fixed. "Excellent. My name is David Reed. I represent Midwest Mega Motors." He gestured to the huge truck. "We have recently purchased the land parcel on which this structure sits. We have big plans for this lot." Bobby felt a cold trickle of fear. "Purchase the land? From who?" David Reed opened his folder. "From the previous owner of the business, a Mr. Samuel Jenkins. The sale was finalized last week. Very clean transaction." "He can't do that," Bobby said. "He didn't own it anymore. The judge said so." "The judge awarded you the business, son. The structure and the business rights," David Reed said, as if explaining something simple to a child. "Mr. Jenkins retained ownership of the underlying land, and he sold it to us. Perfectly legal." He pulled a paper from the folder and held it out. It looked official, with stamps and signatures. "This is a notice to vacate. You have 1 week, 7 days, to remove all personal property and business materials from the premises. After that, this building will be demolished to make way for a new customer parking lot for our dealership across town." Eleanor took the paper. Her hands were steady, but her face had lost all its color. She read the words silently. "1 week?" Bobby whispered. It felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. "That's more than reasonable," David Reed said. He nodded at them, his job done. He climbed back into the giant truck. A moment later, the truck made a loud hissing sound and pulled away, leaving them standing in a cloud of dusty air. Eleanor stared at the notice in her hand. Bobby looked at the shop, their shop, with its fresh blue and yellow paint. He thought of the court fight, the long drive to Cleveland, Arthur's help. They had won. They had gotten it back. Now a man in a suit with a piece of paper was taking it all away again. A deep, hot feeling began to burn in Bobby's chest. It wasn't sadness this time. It was anger, a clean, sharp anger. "He can't," Bobby said, his voice low. "The paper seems very legal, Bobby," Eleanor said, her voice tired. "He sold the land out from under us. It's a trick, but it might be a legal trick." "We fought Mr. Jenkins," Bobby said, turning to her. "We fought and we won. This is just a bigger Mr. Jenkins." He looked at the notice in her hand, then back at the shop. He thought of the loose hose, the ledger in the attic, Arthur's excited eyes. They had found a way before. "We have to fight again," Bobby said. It wasn't a question. The paint on the walls was still drying, but Bobby couldn't look at it. All he could see was the man's cold smile and the official-looking paper. 1 week. "Where do we even start?" Eleanor asked. She sat at the old desk, the notice to vacate in front of her. "We start with papers," Bobby said. The anger was still there, but it had cooled into a hard, clear focus. "Mr. Jenkins used a paper. That man used a paper. We need to find our own paper." "What paper, Bobby?" "The ledger was for the business. This is about the land." "Then we need to find the history of the land," Bobby said.
He remembered the attic, the dusty trunk. History was written down. Who owned this land before Mr. Jenkins? Before you? Eleanor's eyes lifted. My father, John Riley. He gave me the land to build the shop. And before him? I don't know. The town would have records, maps, deeds. Then that's where we go, Bobby said. The small-town town hall was a small, square building next to the library. A woman with glasses sat behind a counter. Can I help you? We need to see the records for a piece of land, Eleanor said. Maple Street, where my auto shop is. The woman, whose name tag said Marge, led them to a back room with tall shelves. Property records are here. They go back a long way. You'll want the plat maps and the deed transfers. Good luck. The shelves were intimidating. Big, heavy books with dates on the spines. They started with the most recent books and worked backwards. They found the deed where Mr. Jenkins sold the land to Midwest Mega Motors. They found the deed where the land was transferred to Mr. Jenkins years ago. They found the deed where Eleanor's father, John Riley, gave the land to her. This is just a list of names and dates, Bobby said after an hour. His hope was fading. It doesn't say anything about rules. Eleanor sighed, rubbing her eyes. Maybe there is no rule. Maybe my father just bought it, like anyone else. Bobby refused to believe it. He thought of the handwritten note in the ledger. Important promises were written down. What about really old maps? Not just the deed books. A map might have notes on it. Marge, who was listening from her desk, nodded. The historical maps are in the library, the old ones, from when the town was first laid out. Mr. Perkins is the librarian. He might be able to help. They thanked her and crossed the small lawn to the small-town public library. It was quiet and cool inside. An elderly man with a bow tie was stamping books at the front desk. Mr. Perkins? Eleanor asked. The very same. Eleanor Whitaker. I heard about your court win. How can I help? We need to see the oldest maps of the town, especially of Maple Street. Mr. Perkins's eyes twinkled. A historical inquiry, my favorite. Follow me. He led them to a special room in the back with a large, flat table. He put on white cloth gloves and carefully pulled a huge rolled map from a wide drawer. This is the original town plat from 1872. Be gentle. He unrolled it on the table, using small weights to hold the corners down. The map was drawn in beautiful, spidery ink. Bobby saw the simple grid of streets with their old names. He found Maple Street. There were only a few squares drawn on it, representing the first houses and shops. One square was labeled Riley Blacksmith Repair. That's it, Bobby whispered, pointing. That's your father, but it says Blacksmith Repair. He was a blacksmith first, Eleanor said, her voice full of wonder. He fixed wagons and tools. Then he fixed cars. Bobby leaned closer. Next to the square, in the same fancy handwriting, was a small note. The ink was faded. He had to squint to read it. What does it say? Eleanor asked. Bobby read it out loud, slowly. Parcel granted to John Riley for a family trade of repair and service to the community. This use shall persist in perpetuity for the good of Smalltown. He looked up. What does in perpetuity mean? Mr. Perkins smiled. It means forever, young man. It means the land is supposed to be used for that purpose forever. Bobby's heart hammered against his ribs. He looked at Eleanor, then back at the map. So the land can only be used for a family business that helps the town, a blacksmith shop, or an auto shop. Eleanor placed a gentle finger near the handwritten note, careful not to touch the old paper. My father put a condition on the land too, just like I did with the business. Bobby stared at the elegant, fading words. They had found their paper. The courtroom felt familiar now, but no less tense. Bobby, Eleanor, and Arthur sat at their table. Across the room, David Reed from Midwest Mega Motors sat with a different lawyer, a woman with a sharp expression. Mr. Jenkins was nowhere to be seen. Judge Harris took a seat. We are here regarding the property at 102 Maple Street, she began. Midwest Mega Motors has petitioned for enforcement of their property rights and eviction. Mrs. Whitaker, you are contesting this? Arthur stood. We are, Your Honor. We have discovered a historical restriction on the land that prevents its use for a commercial parking lot. The judge nodded. Proceed. Arthur placed a large, clear copy of the Old Town map on a stand for everyone to see. He pointed to the small, inked square and the handwritten note beside it. This is the original town plat from 1872. The land was granted to John Riley, Mrs. Whitaker's grandfather, for a specific purpose. The notation states, and I quote, "For a family trade of repair and service to the community. This use shall persist in perpetuity for the good of Smalltown." He turned to the judge. A family trade of repair is exactly what Whitaker's Auto is. It has been for 3 generations. The land was never meant for a large corporation's parking lot. It was meant to serve the town. This is a legally binding restrictive covenant. The lawyer for Midwest Mega Motors, Miss Grant, stood up quickly. "Your Honor, this is absurd. A handwritten note on a map from over 150 years ago? That has no bearing on modern property law. The note is not recorded on any current deed. It's a historical artifact, not a legal document. My client purchased the land in good faith for a lawful business purpose." Judge Harris studied the large copies of the map. "It is a very old stipulation," she said. "It is the original stipulation," Arthur countered calmly. "It established the character of that parcel. That character has been maintained without interruption from blacksmith shop to auto shop. The Riley and Whitaker families have upheld their end for a century and a half. That continuity matters." Miss Grant shook her head. "Your Honor, the law cannot be held hostage by sentimental scribbles. Midwest Mega Motors will bring jobs and tax revenue. A small, outdated repair shop cannot compete with that benefit." For the first time, Bobby felt a surge of words he needed to say. He looked at Eleanor. She gave him a small, encouraging nod. He raised his hand slightly. Judge Harris saw him. "Young man, do you have something to add?" Bobby stood up, his face warm. "It's not about competing," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. "It's about helping. Last week, Mrs. Henderson's car wouldn't start. She needed to get to her doctor. We fixed her battery cable and she paid us $10 when she could. Dan, our mechanic, helped Mr. Miller push his old truck here when it died on Main Street. We don't just fix cars. We help people get where they need to go. That's the service. That's what the note says." He sat back down, his heart pounding. The room was quiet. Judge Harris looked from Bobby to the old map, then to Miss Grant. "The law is not just about the present," she said slowly. "It is also about promises made to shape a community. This notation is the founding promise for this piece of Smalltown. It has been honored for generations. The fact that it is old does not make it weak. It makes it foundational." She straightened her papers. "I find the restrictive covenant on the original plat to be valid and binding. The land parcel is designated for a community service family trade. An auto shop qualifies. A parking lot for a distant corporation does not. The petition for eviction is denied. The cease and desist order against Midwest Mega Motors is granted." She tapped her gavel. "Case closed." David Reed's mouth was a thin, angry line. He whispered something harsh to his lawyer and stood up, leaving the courtroom without a glance back. Arthur let out a long breath and smiled. Eleanor reached over and squeezed Bobby's hand tightly. Outside on the courthouse steps, the sun felt warm and real. Bobby looked up at the sky. It was over, really over. "You spoke perfectly, Bobby," Eleanor said. "I just told the truth," he said. "That," said Arthur, closing his briefcase, "is always the best argument. You have your shop and your land for good this time." People from the town who had been waiting outside came up to them. Dan the mechanic, Mrs. Henderson, Mr. Perkins the librarian, and others. They had heard the news. They were smiling, offering handshakes and congratulations. They weren't just customers. They were the community the old map talked about. Bobby looked at their faces and finally understood what winning meant. The blue and yellow shop was filled with people. Laughter and music spilled out from the open garage door onto Maple Street. Paper lanterns were strung from the ceiling. A long table was covered with dishes brought by everyone in town. Mrs. Henderson's potato salad, Dan's famous grilled burgers, Mr. Perkins's lemon cake. Bobby stood near the old workbench, now clean and shiny. He watched the whole town of Smalltown mixing and talking in the space that had been so quiet and lonely just a few weeks ago. Eleanor walked over, holding 2 cups of lemonade. She handed one to Bobby. "A party was a wonderful idea," she said. "It was your idea," Bobby said, taking a sip. "It was our idea," she corrected with a smile. "Look at them all. This is what the map meant. This is the community." Mr. Perkins approached, adjusting his bow tie. "A splendid victory, my dears. That old map hasn't seen the light of day in 50 years. You gave it a purpose again." "Thank you for helping us find it," Bobby said. "Oh, it was my pleasure."
History isn't just in books, it's right under our feet. He wandered off to get a slice of cake. Dan the mechanic came over, a burger in his hand. "Place looks better than ever, boss," he said to Eleanor. He nodded at Bobby. "You did good, kid. Real good." "We all did," Bobby said. Across the room, Bobby saw his mother, Linda, talking with Eleanor. His mom was smiling her real smile, the one that made her whole face bright. She caught Bobby's eye and gave him a little wave. He waved back. Arthur had come all the way from Cleveland for the party. He sat on a folding chair, looking at the crowd with happy tears in his eyes. "This," he said to Bobby as he walked by, "is the best kind of justice." As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange light through the garage door, the crowd slowly thinned. People said their goodbyes with full stomachs and happy hearts. Bobby and Eleanor began the quiet work of cleaning up. They took down the lanterns. They wrapped up the leftover food. They swept the floor. They worked together without needing to speak much. It was easy. When the last paper plate was thrown away, they stood in the middle of the empty shop. The silence was peaceful now, not lonely. "What did you learn, Bobby?" Eleanor asked softly, looking around at their shop. Bobby thought about it. He thought about the loose hose and Mr. Jenkins's yell. He thought about the attic dust and the cold feel of the new lock. He thought about the long highway to Cleveland and the quiet courtroom and the faded ink on the old map. "I learned that being kind is strong," he said slowly. "But I also learned that sometimes you have to fight hard to protect it. You have to fight with truth, and you have to fight with friends." Eleanor put an arm around his shoulders. "That is a very grown-up thing to know." "Does the fighting part ever stop?" Bobby asked. "No," Eleanor said honestly. "But the good part doesn't stop either, and the good part gets bigger. Look at all the friends we have now." They walked to the big garage door. Eleanor pulled it down with a soft, rolling rumble. It was time to go home. They stood outside on the sidewalk. The new sign above the door, freshly painted, read, "Whitaker Son Auto." Bobby looked at the word son. It made a warm feeling spread in his chest. Eleanor followed his gaze. "If that's all right with you," she said. "It's perfect," Bobby said. He looked down Maple Street where the streetlights were just starting to glow. He thought about tomorrow. There would be cars that needed fixing. There would be people who needed help. He and Eleanor and Dan would be here to do it. "Ready for tomorrow?" Eleanor asked, locking the front door. Bobby nodded. He was ready for tomorrow and all the days after.